All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Writers and Fighters. This is the podcast where I interview writers of all kinds, as well as fighters of all kinds. I'm your host, AJ Ortega. This is episode 4. And my guest today is Athena Martinez. She's an MMA fighter calling into the show from Sydney, Australia. And we talk about her early training and moving around, ultimately landing down under where she trains at Australian Top Team. Athena had a fight scheduled last November, but unfortunately it was derailed by a cryotherapy session gone bad. So that's a really compelling story, so stay tuned for that part of the interview. But before I talk with Athena, let me recap a bit of the UFC on ABC event. And again, this was the first time in years that the UFC has been on network television. And overall, I don't think the event could have gone much better. There were 5 fights on the broadcast on ABC, and the first 3 ended in knockouts, and early. I believe they were all the first round. And while those were really short fights, I think it's exciting for the viewers at home to see decisive wins that way, especially if there's going to be people who are a little bit more plugged into it like I am watching, and there's going to be casual or new fans also watching because of the accessibility of it being on ABC. And so I think that that's good because there were prelims on UFC Fight Pass. You got to pay for their streaming service, and there was preliminary fights on there, and they weren't so great, right? It was a little rocky. They weren't really exciting, good, great fights, I should say. In terms of, being fan-friendly in terms of how does that look visually, right? And so seeing somebody get knocked out, visually, you know who won. And so those first 3 fights ended in knockouts, and they were early. And I'm not going to spend any time talking about those because the co-main and the main event were both really interesting as follow-ups to that. So the 4th fight was Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. Again, the co-main event. And Carlos Condit's been in the UFC for a decade and the WEC before that. Really a fan favorite, one of the most entertaining fighters. While this was a fight between 2 unranked guys, that didn't mean it wasn't going to be a good fight. In fact, if you saw their highlight reels, you can see that, these guys are quite exciting, and you look at their records and they're quite durable. And so this match was great. I think because the event was on ABC, it was the perfect follow-up to those 3 knockouts that we saw in the previous fights. This one goes all 3 rounds. But the display that they put on in terms of the striking and the grappling was really exciting. There was not a lot of lulls in the fight. So sometimes, if a fight will go 15 minutes, if it goes into the judge's hands, right, once the time expires, it can be a little tedious for casual fans that want to see the excitement and the blood and knockouts and all these kinds of things. I get that. People like excitement. And this fight had it. A lot of the time when the fighters go to the ground and work submissions and control through things like wrestling and jiu-jitsu, people sometimes don't know what they're watching, right? There's a learning curve to understanding the sport and the rules. And there are, in fact, rules, right? And so I thought it was really clear that even to a casual viewer, the way these guys were fighting, that it was very clear that these 2 guys were working for positions and submissions when they were tied up on the ground. Really good wrestling, really good takedown attempts, takedown defenses, takedown successes. Yeah, really, really good grappling displayed by both Condit and Brown. By the end of the fight, though, it was pretty clear that Carlos Condit won that unanimous decision. Matt Brown seemed a little gassed out at the end. There was a point where he had mounted Carlos Condit on the ground, but just looked winded. Didn't have anything to give. Whereas Condit, he just had some great elbows that came standing up on the ground from his back. Just a great fight. And Condit won that one decisively through the judges' scorecards in a unanimous decision. And then we get to the main event. And Max Holloway looked cool and calm walking in. And with this fight, there's not much to say except that Holloway put on a clinic. He schooled the kid, man. He schooled Kattar. Both fighters came in, they're lean for 145 featherweight. They're about 5'11 at 145. But Max Holloway maximized that reach. Just really was able to figure out that distance immediately, it seemed like. And I felt that Kattar couldn't find that range in that first part of the fight, particularly the first round. And it seemed like, I don't know if he lost confidence or just couldn't break through Max's defense like Max was doing his, breaking through his defense. Kattar was touching Holloway here and there, but Holloway was just lighting him up in terms of the volume and the power, right? It's not like Holloway walked away completely unscathed, but in comparison, it looks that way. And the entire fight was fought on the feet, whereas in the previous fight, we'd seen Carlos Condit and Matt Brown wrestling, right? They were trying to get submissions and work on the ground. But this one was entirely on the feet. Holloway utilized that John Jones-style oblique kick to keep Kattar at bay, and he uses it almost like a jab. Holloway will throw a combo of 3-4 punches, and on the break, when they're kind of separating and maybe Kattar's going to come back in and re-engage, on that break, after a combo, he would stab at Kattar's lead leg with that oblique kick, right above the knee. And then these low leg kicks were landing behind the knee. A testament to Kattar's durability. Like, again, the chin, he was eating body shots. He's eating these leg kicks and these oblique kicks. It was just interesting that he couldn't find his shots. I likened Holloway's performance to that of Neo in The Matrix. Like when he breaks through and almost becomes invincible. Well, I guess he dies and comes back essentially in the movie. But it's like that the moment where he's untouchable. It was kind of like that. Holloway had Kattar looking like a bloody mess at the end of the fourth round. And again, all the previous matches were scheduled for 3, but this is a main event with championship contention at stake, so it was 5 rounds. So instead of 15 minutes, it's a total of 25. But at the end of the fourth round, it looked like it was going to be stopped. Like towards the end of that round, he was getting beat up on the cage, and nobody would have blamed Herb Dean, the referee, for stopping it at that point. I wish I could say that Kattar was still in the fight at that point, but he wasn't. He was defending himself, but maybe not intelligently defending himself, which is the rule, right? Not just that you're covering up, but you have to be intelligently defending yourself. Otherwise, the referee has to call it, and it was a kind of gray area. I mean, I could see why Herb Dean let it go, but I would have also been able to see 100% why he would have potentially stopped it. So again, not intelligently defending himself, but he's up on his feet. He's a little wobbly, not as much as you'd think, honestly, but his face is a bloody mess. He's eaten every shot imaginable, and he's not going down. Round ends, and I'm like, is he going to be able to get off the stool? Are they going to let him? If I was cornering Kattar, I don't let him go out for that 5th round. You've lost 4 rounds, and 2 of those maybe could have been 10-8 rounds. Using the 10-point must system, typically they're 10-9 rounds, but it took such a beating, there's a good argument that they would have been 10-8 rounds. But that 5th round was more of the same. They do let him go out. A little bit slower pace the first minute or 2 of that round, but more of the same. Holloway just lighting him up. And to the point to where, again, he's like Neo, and he's like untouchable. And Holloway's showboating at one point and yelling something at the commentators, but he's not looking at his opponent. He's looking off to the side of the cage, yelling something at the commentators, but he's still landing shots on Kattar while barely looking. He's still throwing out a jab and popping him. It was really something to see. And so it ended in a unanimous decision for Holloway. And again, a very decisive unanimous decision where a couple of those rounds could have been 10-8 rounds. So that was the card for UFC on ABC, which I think was a huge success. I think it had the best variety of finishes minus a submission. Like if there would have been somebody getting choked out or a knee bar or arm bar, something like that. That would have been the only way to add more variety. So yeah, with three finishes and being KOs, then the next one going the distance with lots of action on the feet and the ground, and then the last match being a one-sided slugfest. I do think that they made a good impression, and maybe some new fans if they tuned in. And so I'm definitely looking forward to what else comes up on the UFC on ABC cards. All right, so let's get to my conversation with Athena Martinez, amateur MMA fighter. She's a Brazilian fighting out of Sydney, Australia with the folks at Australian Top Team. She's super cool, and so was this interview. Enjoy. All right, I'm sitting here now, screen to screen, with Athena Martinez. And so one of the first things I wanted to ask you is, so you live and train in Australia, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, but is that home for you?
No. I've been here it's been for 4 years now. It was just a decision that I made, and I was living in Brazil, and I moved to Italy, and I was there for a little bit, and just decided to see if I could find a country that would allow me to live and have a better quality of life. And here I am 4 years later.
Yeah, hopping from country to country. Very cool.
Yeah.
And so Brazil's home is
Yeah.
okay. Because I saw the name. I was like Martinez. I was like, that's a Spanish surname. I was like, is she from Latin America or from somewhere? Or again, every country now is an immigrant country. So I'm like, well, anybody can be from anywhere now. So
Exactly. And people would normally ask if I'm Greek, and I'm like, nah, that's just the name. And they ask if I'm Latino, and I'm like, nah, I'm not.
yeah, Brazilian.
So,
We're our own thing, right?
exactly.
Very cool, very cool. And so when did you start in the fight game?
I think was about 2 years ago. I've just, I just had a shift inside myself, and I decided to change my identity as a person, and something is necked. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna embrace life with my own hands, and I think it would be good. And then I started with boxing, and then jiu-jitsu came a couple of months later, and it came as well with MMA.
Okay, great. Yeah, that was my next question was, you know, I've seen you training, MMA most recently, and obviously have a clear jiu-jitsu background, but you started with boxing then.
Yeah, I started with boxing, but ended up realizing that my best game is a grappling game, so takedowns, wrestling, and finishing off on the floor. So it kind of, I'm great taking punches, but my strength is on the takedowns and dominating the ground floor. So it's good. It's fun. It's been fun.
Okay. And so when did you start to compete rather than just train? Like how far into your training were you where they're going to take you to a little tournament or you tell me because I'm not sure how the hierarchy of those organizations kind of go.
I already knew from my first day at the gym that I wanted to compete. So first day I went to the class, I said to the coach, I want to be competing. There's a competition in 3 months from now, and I want to be there. So I always had that mentality that if I was going to do something, I was not going to do it halfway. I was going to do it like 100% of it. So 3 months later, I was competing and winning stuff. So never stopped. So it's great.
Very cool. What do you remember about the first organized fight, right? Because again, you said, well, I'm trying to redefine myself. And so you go into this training and then you start to compete. What do you remember about that first event?
I remember that, there's always a bit of, fear and emotions involved before you actually stepping in on the mats or in the cage. And I remember that at that time, I wanted to prove myself, not only for myself, but for those people that say that like 3 months were too soon for me to start competing. So I was like, I'm going to prove these motherfuckers wrong, you know? And so that was a matter of like ego and proud mixture together. And I was like, you know, I'm not going to back off because this is my moment, you know?
No, I think that's pretty common with athletes in general, that if you tell the wrong person no, that's just going to add more fuel to the fire, right? And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
tell me no. That just makes me buckle down and go in harder, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so that was strictly grappling at that point, the competition. Okay.
And then I started, I think, because it's easier with jiu-jitsu competitions. You have pretty much, apart from this COVID time, you have a competition every weekend, you know? So it's easier for you to stay active on jiu-jitsu game. And it helps a lot for you to gain confidence in any other type of training that you're doing, because you're like, you know, I go to competition and I know that I need to improve this and that area on my game. You go back into training and then you improve those areas, you work on those areas, and then next week and you have another competition and you put into practice or what you train. So I think that's the good thing with all the competitions that we have, that you can actually improve a lot.
Yeah, I think, yeah, there's you hit a certain limit in the gym, right? You have to go and do it for real and take it to that next level, right? Get out of your comfort zone and things like that.
Exactly.
And so you're training at Australian Top Team, is that correct?
Yeah, love them.
Okay, tell me about them. Tell me about the organization. Yeah.
The owners are Ashkan and Salman Mokhtarian. They are from Iran, and they're both UFC fighters. We have in total, I think, 4 or 5 UFC fighters, and we are a fighters gym. So we have the pro classes, and majority of the people that go training there, they are there because they want to become fighters. So it's not really a fitness gym. It's more a competitive level kind of gym. So we have the sparring sessions and the MMA, wrestling, so everything with the idea of becoming fighters. So it's not even about jiu-jitsu for them. We have the no-gi and the gi classes, and it's great. But for them, it's like they want us to become MMA fighters, and that's what we are there and aiming for.
Good. Okay. And so the gym has that focus of we're breeding some competitors, right? So they all have an
breeding
end goal,
fighters.
Not like I'm here to kind of get in shape, right? Like, well, that's a different goal, which is a good important goal too, you know. But I think that's I think it's good to have that kind of distinction that, well, we're all trying to get somewhere, right?
Yeah, it's a different mindset. It's we all know what it is to be on fight camp, so we help each other to because some people are in a fight camp and other people are just training and going to have a fight in 6 months from now, but some people are going to have a fight in 4 weeks from now. So you're always helping someone in their fight camps. So the pace of training, it's different. It's very different. And then you have the structure of like, you know that those are the ones going to be fighting soon. So those people are going to be doing the shark tanks, and you know how to help them to get ready, and they know how and when to help you to get ready for a fight as well. So it's a proper fighter's gym.
Yeah, and again that timing and scheduling, the organization that goes into, again, the camp versus I'm kind of training to stay in shape and to be sharp or whatever, but that fight camp, it's like, well, by this week we got to be here, by this day we have to be here, you know, in terms of your skill or your weight or whatever the case may be. Do a lot of women go ahead.
And I think like it's not to say that, like, I think it's very important for everyone to be training and fighting and competing and then doing martial arts. It doesn't matter if they compete or not, but you got to choose your gym wisely so it doesn't put you off. Some people go with an idea and they, for example, they go training and they're not happy with the way that they train and they think that that's martial arts. You just got to find a gym that works for you,
Oh, I always told, yeah. I've been known to, I'm a writer, but I've been known to wander in and out of a martial arts gym of some kind every once in a while. I've trained boxing on and off for many years, and yeah, I think people should shop around and get the feel for the kind of gym you want. I like an older, dusty gym. That's just kind of my thing. If they have a big, fancy equipment, I'm not impressed by that. I want like fundamentals. Things like that.
I know that feeling. We are like we're pretty much an old school gym, and I've been through a few gyms in and out before starting with them 1.5 years ago, and I just knew that I needed to try and find the gym that would suit my vision best. I wanted a gym that would help me to go from A to B, would help me to achieve my dreams. And as soon as I went there, I was like, this is my people.
That's good. Yeah. Rather than like, okay, well, we want to mold this person into whatever we want. Well, what's her goal? How do we get her to that? How do we get her there? Right. And so that's a very nurturing environment, which I think is important in such a hard endeavor, right? And something that's like you're physically putting your body on the line.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
Are there a lot of women that train there at Australian Top Team?
No, not really. Actually, I think in total, around November or October last year, we were in total about 5 girls. Nadia, which was fighting on UFC, now is training. She's going to a professional boxing now. Okay. So she's not with us at this moment. And we have Amira that fights out of one championship, and she's not training with us at the moment. She has her family and life plans for her. And now we have me. And then we have another 2 girls. They're young girls. They're around like maybe 18, and they're starting with their training as well. So yeah, I'm the oldest there at this moment. Okay. So yeah, it's pretty much just me and 30 boys.
A bunch of dudes at the gym. No, that's great. I was curious because I'm sure you keep up that pretty much on everybody's list of fight of the year last year was Weili Zhang and Joanna Jędrzejczyk, right? And it's like, okay, well, they're no longer like co-main eventing. They're headlining pay-per-views all the time, right? And stealing the show and things like that. So I'm always curious in terms of what the landscape looks like in different gyms and in Australia, for example, because I don't know what goes on out there in terms of the MMA world. But I think
in jiu-jitsu you would find in jiu-jitsu you would find probably more girls in other gyms. But when it comes to MMA, you're always going to have like 1 or 2 in each gym, and it's good. It makes us tough. It makes us work hard and learn how to take a good beat. You know what I mean? So it's pretty fun.
Cool. And so you were scheduled to fight in November, and that was going to be an MMA fight, right? It wasn't going to be a grappling event.
No, MMA. That was going to be MMA on the 26th of November.
Yeah, for Urban Fight, correct, in Australia.
Yeah.
So what happened there? Walk us through, like from the preparation and then when things went sour.
So I was given notice that I was going to be fighting, I think, like 3 or 4 weeks before the event. And I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. Even if it was tomorrow, I'm ready. I feel that I'm ready, because there were no fight events for like the entire year because of COVID, right?
Yeah, you're starving to get in there.
Yeah, so Urban Fight was actually the first fight night back in Sydney, right? So big deal, and everyone was pumped. A bunch of people from my gym fighting out of that event, and so we're doing the fight camp and weight cutting, and everything was, going according to plan. And so I started my weight cutting on the 25th, so on Thursday, and I finished on the weigh-in day. So I finished on the 26th. The weigh-in was supposed to be around 5 or 6 p.m. And the fight was supposed to be on the 27th, Friday at around 6 p.m. as well. So anyway, I finished my weight cutting. I'm heading to the gym, and at that time I was working with this nutritionist that I found on Instagram that had some good fighters under his name.
Yeah,
and I was like, it's social media. Like, you believe whatever you see because,
Yeah, you ended up here on this podcast, right? So.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, and then he sent me a message. He said, look, let's go to this cryotherapy session. And I'm like, well, I've done cryo before and I know how it works, but I've never been to that place. And so just so you understand, my body was hot. So I had the night before saunas and I had bathtubs and I was like not drinking and not eating, right? Was it normal weight cut.
A normal weight cut for you, but yeah, so for our listeners, about how intense was that weight cut for you? And what were you at, like what, 125? Oh, that's a flyweight?
I don't know in American weight, but in kilos, in kilos, I started weight cutting around 65, 66, and then dieting and etc. And I was going to be fighting at 57.
Okay. Yeah, that's flyweight, yeah.
Yeah, so the last cut, which was going to be on a sauna, and what we do, we don't eat or drink for the 24 hours prior to the weigh-in, right? Yeah, just so you have all the water load stuff. Anyway, but it's a process that you gotta have someone that you trust doing that with you, right? So I had the girls with me through all the sauna and hot baths because you gotta have like a specific time, a specific temperature. It's a bit of a process. Anyway, my body was hot, and this guy took me to this cryo place, and the guy left me there for 6 minutes in a minus 195 degrees.
Is it up to your neck?
So, yeah, up to your neck. And you're having like nitrogen in contact to your body, like all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a spray.
Okay, it's like spraying the nitrogen like a mist.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like pretty much it's just in contact with your body. You're just wearing like a sport bra and underwear.
Okay.
But the thing is, the maximum time allowed for a human body to stay in those machines is maximum 3 minutes. And the temperature, I think it's around minus 150 or minus 160. So that's why everything kind of went wrong, because I was left for too long in a temperature that was higher than they allowed.
Wow.
And like, to be honest, I didn't really feel anything while I was inside the machine. I just realized after. And then I could start seeing like the redness and the burning feeling and the blisters after a couple of hours. And
so you didn't see that until you were like home or something, right? Like you had left the place hours or something.
After the cryo, I had to do the weigh-in. So I went straight to my gym.
Okay.
Right. So I could see my legs very red. And so I was waiting around 2 hours for my weigh-in. And while I was waiting and my legs were burning, I could see the blisters popping. And I was like, oh, yeah. I'm like, shit, this isn't good. And I'm like, fuck, what am I going to do? So I messaged my friend, and she's a nurse, and she told me to go to the hospital, right? By the time I get to the hospital, which is like 4 hours after the cryo machine stuff, my legs are fucking like burning and gross and full of blisters.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had no idea that would still progress. So what happens with the nitrogen is that it releases some crystals that burn your skin continuously. Unless you remove the crystal, it will continue to burn. It will get to your bone.
It's like tiny microscope, but like in your skin. So that's why it keeps getting, heating up and burning or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you gotta remove it, but the only way for you to remove it is not even washing. You gotta like scrub it out.
Yeah.
So that was the first surgery that I had. They had to remove. Yeah, I was pretty much degloved. They removed the left leg, like pretty much the back part of it,
all the
back
skin.
part of my leg. Yeah, of the skin, yeah. Because they had to remove all the crystals and all the dead skin and all the areas that were still burning. And they removed on the left leg, maybe like 20% on the inside. And so that's when I found out on the next day when I went back to the hospital, because I thought I was still able to fight. We're fighters. I was like, I'm just going to put some tape on it,
Wow.
Yeah, that mentality. Just going to put some tape and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I get there and the doctor goes like,
hell no.
You're going to rush into surgery or you're going to lose your legs. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Because it's all so open. I mean, I can't imagine just like the risk of infection is so huge because it's so much exposed skin.
Yeah. And that's why it took me so long for actually being able to train or be around my dog or go back to work. It's more the fact that they remove your entire skin and it's just so prone to infection that what happens is you're pretty much raw. If you get any bacteria there, you can literally lose the legs from a secondary infection. Yeah. So then I had to have like a second surgery because in the back of my knee, I still had some dead muscle. So apparently there was still a bit of nitrogen inside my leg still burning. So the muscle on the back of my calf, just behind my knee, was dead. And then it was a funny fact, but the day that the doctor told me I was have to do like a second surgery, he had his scalpel blades and he was cutting into my muscle. And I was looking and I knew it was wrong because it wasn't bleeding and I couldn't feel anything. And he was like digging deep with his surgical knife. And I'm like, there's something wrong there.
Just poking around in your open wound.
Yeah, and he's like, you can't feel anything? And I'm like,
no, you're stabbing me and I'm not feeling it, fool.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, fuck, I know this is no good. And he was like, it's dead. We got to remove it. So I'm like, great. Shit. So anyway, so that was the second surgery and had a lot of support from everyone, but was in total 6 weeks without training, 4 weeks literally just in bed.
God.
Literally, couldn't walk, couldn't have a shower,
Right.
So, and then on the last 2 weeks, I was able to start moving. So I was able to do some upper body strength. And just now, I think 6 or 7 weeks later, I'm allowed to go back to training, but I'm still not allowed to do jiu-jitsu, grappling, just because the skin is still a bit sensitive and we don't want to get a staph infection or something.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, I saw you hitting the mitts though. That was today.
Yeah. But look, I didn't know how quick it is for you to lose your fitness. I'm like, wow, I'm slow, my foot is not there. I feel strong on my punches, but the fatigue after 1 hour punching is there, Well,
I can imagine if you take a week off, you're going to be, where's my lungs? Where's my speed? And then, 6 weeks? That's a lot.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
crazy. And I think that's the difficult part is the comeback now is for me to keep my mental health in shape, is for me to stop comparing myself to where I was 6 weeks ago, to like understand that I went through something and I need to respect my body that and give it time to come back, you know?
Yeah, it's going to be, yeah, again, it's going to be a lot. Yeah, it's going to be quite a road. But again, with that kind of work ethic and to still just kind of get back in there, I can imagine how like demoralizing or whatever it must have felt when it's doctors like, yeah, we got to have emergency surgery because you might lose your legs, and you're like, but I need my legs to grapple and to I can't do if I need my legs to pull off a triangle choke, like and so
Yeah.
uh, that's pretty intense stuff. And so you mentioned a little bit about the muscle damage, and so the skin was obviously damaged and stuff, but what about muscles and nerves and stuff like that? What are they thinking, like long-term stuff, or do they have to wait, or what do you feel?
So the second surgery, the doctor was very aware of my competition and fighting career. So he said to me, he said, if you don't have the surgery, you're going to have a dead muscle there and you're going to have a very thick scar. And that's not going to allow you to go back training because you're not going to be able to extend completely your leg. And if someone forces it, it will just rip off your skin. Yeah, exactly. And it was like, if you want to start competing again and training and have a normal life as a fighter, you got to have the second surgery. So he removed a skin grafting from my leg, and then he removed that muscle from behind my knee, and he replaced with that skin.
Okay.
So now pretty much it's just like it has a bit of I can feel and I can see the area, but it's not interfering with my mobility or with anything. Okay. So it's been great. It's great news,
No, I mean, that's again to hear like, hey, you might lose your legs, to, hey, well,
yeah,
you're gonna get back. It's just be patient and all that stuff, but like it ain't over. Like that's great. That's great news.
It's great news, yeah. And I'm I have fighting news coming up soon, so hopefully end of February I'm back in the game.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So what's coming up then for you?
Because of all the lawsuit and everything that is happening, I'm only allowed to do whatever my doctors tell me to do, right? Okay. So right now, because if it was for me, I would be competing jiu-jitsu next weekend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they said, look, just for now, give yourself another 2 or 3 weeks. So after I get the 100%, ready to go from the doctors, I just want to compete every weekend. If I can, I'll be competing jiu-jitsu. And the goal for this year is to have three or 4 MMA fights. So February, hopefully going to have, end of February, going to be the first one. And then give another 3 months. I'm trying to have a fight every 3 months from now on.
Yeah, that's a busy schedule. Yeah, every 3.
Yeah.
That's
the training never stops, and the training is always there. It's about adjusting a few things on the game and what's going to be the plan for that fight against that person in specific. But I'm here and I'm ready. As if they find me a fight, I'll be fighting. And if not, I'll be competing jiu-jitsu and staying active as much as I can, because we gotta understand that fighting is not a long career. So everything that we can do now with what we have right now, we should embrace and do, because injury is going to be there and accidents going to be there and life's going to be in the way. So I just want to do as much as I can with the time that I have now and with the abilities that I have now. because this is not going to last 20 years,
No, yeah.
Hopefully, but
yeah, it's one of those things you have to maximize your time in that thing because it's finite, right? It's limited, just because
exactly.
of your physical body, as you know more than any of us do. That's
Yeah, fuck the impact and the pain, like your joints, everything is always sore. And, I envy the people that wake up without pain,
That's funny. And so what about any other injuries? And again, that soreness, that always kind of being banged up, aside from the cryo accident thing, have you gone through any other kind of big injuries or anything surprise you in the gym? Like, holy shit, that hurt and I wasn't expecting that, or
well, I think it's always training with boys, right? They're always going to be stronger, bigger than you. And if you're rolling with them, you're always going to have their body weight on you. And it's different from training with girls.
Sure.
Because the boys, they always use their weight against you, right? So I think I had a knee injury last year around the same time in December. So I had my meniscus and my lateral ligament done from jiu-jitsu, of course, as everyone has. But I think injuries are always there now. I get punched a lot and kicked in the ribs, but like for me, pain is, we know it's part of the game and it's there, and you're always going to be sore because we try and train for 4 to 6 hours per day. So it's like you train more than you're actually recovering, so it's part of the process. And it's something that we try and manage with stretching and mobility and yoga as much as we can, but that's why we do cryo or ice baths or sauna, just to help the body to ease on their pain a little bit. So
yeah,
it's inevitable. And
that's interesting. Yeah. No, yeah, again, the fact that we know, again, just the science and technology that is around us informs the fight game too. So again, we're more informed about what do I put in my body and what do I not put in my body. How much damage can these muscles and tendons take, and so on. What about recovery and heat and cold? Like, I'm a big believer of the cold to heal, right? And then so to hear that cryo nightmare is just so, like, again, because I get like back issues and like, oh, ice pack on the back, and it's natural to be like, oh, ice is healing.
Yeah. And I'm always putting ice on my knees, shoulders, everywhere on my joints. And I try to, as an athlete, we try to always eat clean and give our bodies like the right fuel to support and to recover faster, right? And to support the type of training that we have and the type of lifestyle. So I try what people that I trust tell me to. So like CBD oils, supplements, amino acids, fish oil, all these things that can help you a little bit. That's everything that I try to do. And I've done cryo before, and I've done all types of recovery, and I love ice baths. They're terrible, but they work so well.
Yeah.
They work so well. And hot baths, everything. You gotta know that you're gonna have to do these things because it's not an easy lifestyle, and your body will be painful. It's inevitable.
So you say it's not an easy lifestyle, and we're observing and listening to you talk about the fight stuff and this recent difficulty you had, but what would you say is the hardest thing about living the life of a fighter?
Discipline. Discipline is something that is essential if you want to be a proper athlete, if you want to be a fighter or in any type of sport, if you want to embrace that life and become a professional in that area, you got to have a lot of discipline, and you got to say no to lots of things, right? So so for example, on the weekends, your friend's going to be out partying, and you're going to have to understand that that's the time that you have to rest. So you go to bed early, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't eat shit food, so you're not going to see me eating at McDonald's, or binging on a bunch of sugar, because I know that the food that I'm putting inside my body would be 30 minutes more or less than I'm going to be spending in a sauna or in a hot tub when I'm cutting weight. So, and the discipline is always also involves the fact that you're feeling pain, but you know that you got to show up to work. You know what I mean? So I like to say that, like, if you have that fighter's mentality, it's kind of being an adult. So you got to show up to work. So kids stay in bed, adults show up to work. It doesn't matter what's happening. It doesn't matter if you have a problem with your partner or your parents or life and work. You got to find time, and you got to put that discipline. It doesn't matter if you're not feeling motivated, if you're feeling pain, if you're feeling sad, because it's about achieving something and following that dream, and it's with the discipline that you're gonna get there.
Yeah, I think that's again, that's one of those that I don't think people understand that, like, that fight mentality, that, like, you have to be disciplined and motivated on your own. And here's the reason I like combat sports, and it was the only kind of athletic thing I would ever do, kung fu training when I was a kid, boxing when I was an adult, stuff like that, because it's just you. There ain't no team behind you. It's like, the basketball team, you got a bunch of other dudes there with you. Football team, there's a bunch of other people there. And in all these other endeavors, you have other people. It's like, well, that self-discipline that only comes from combat sports, right?
Yeah.
In an isolated kind of endeavor.
Yeah.
Which is the analogy I kind of make with writing, is like, that's the solo thing you do as well, right? And there's very few things that are so solo that way, very isolated, and you have to be disciplined.
You have your coaches and your training partners at the gym with you and near the cage when you're fighting, and giving that motivation and helping you. But they are not in your house getting you out of bed when you're tired, when you're upset, when you're in pain. They're not going to be here, hey, wake up, let's go training. You know what I mean?
Right.
You got to be the one showing up and putting in the effort. So they take you seriously, first of all, because if they see that you don't show up, they're like, this person is not taking it serious. Why am I going to take that person serious? Yeah. So it all comes with you, it depends on you, and it got to come from within. You have the power of choosing if you want to stay in bed or not.
I think that's, I think it's, you have the power to choose, right? And it's like, well, we just make choices to not live certain ways or not be disciplined because, it's uncomfortable. Who wants to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
And that's the sacrifice that you make. I love that.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, life, everyone goes through bullshit time and tragedies, but people need to understand that, like, the world's not going to stop because of your tragedies or because of your mood or whatever is happening to you. You got to keep moving with the world because nothing is going to stop because of you, and we got to understand that it's us that will decide if we're going to make the situation that we're in better or worse. You know what I mean? So it's going to suck. I know if for example, I'm feeling pain and I don't want to go training today because I'm tired. It's going to be much worse if I don't go training because my mindset's going to be feeling that I'm a quitter or I'm a loser or whatever. So it's on your hands to decide what's going to be the best option. And you got to always decide to don't quit and to follow that discipline. It's like training is like going to work. You got to go to work. You got to do it. You got to go training.
Yeah, I dig that. Yeah, you got to be the captain of your own ship for sure.
Exactly.
Since this is the Writers and Fighters podcast, it's very clear you're a fighter, very clear. But do you do any writing, or do you read anything, or any kind of creative endeavors that you do? Anything that's maybe not so tough and scary, like choking people out?
Look, I am a very active reader.
Okay.
So I like to read at least a book per week.
Holy shit, good for you.
And I love self-development books. So I love everything that is stoicism. If it's stoic, I'm reading, Ryan Holiday's. And then I have J.B. Peterson, that it's the guy that I think it's amazing. So love his things. And I love that guy, Brandon Burchard. He's amazing as well. So everything that is about self-development for me is amazing, because I think it's the only thing that we can actually control, who we are and how we react to things that life throws at us. So I like to see insights from different points of view and perspectives of how I can be more self-aware, and try to every day learn something about myself. So reading helps me a lot, and I do a lot of journaling.
Oh, that's really healthy.
And
yeah, that's great.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I think we have that storm inside our heads, and it's even difficult to talk to someone sometimes. So I think that journaling just makes everything so clear, and then you understand, that's what I'm feeling. That's the reason is this, but you gotta ask yourself the hard questions and do the work. So you gotta sit down and do journaling,
I think that's really smart that, you mentioned journaling and then reading, but specifically reading books that are going to help you individually. I think that's really cool and smart that even both those ideas are to nurture yourself and make yourself stronger, more mentally tough. Again, which is all part of what you do as a fighter.
It's it helps, because I think we need to understand that, as you say, it is a very lonely process, right? To be an athlete, you lose friends, you don't go out much, you lose partners on the journey. I don't have much of a social life. So the time that I have for myself, I am trying to improve myself. And I know that I have my training area already sorted. So I'm training my physical already, but I still need to train my mindset, because that impacts a lot of how you're going to behave in a fight, how you're going to step in on the mats, how you're going to, treat other people, and how you're going to handle a situation, right? So I think the self-development books, they help you to guide you how to become better. And sometimes you're going through something, and then you read and you're like, oh, that's exactly how I feel, and that's amazing. And then you start understanding how you feel and why you feel that way. And then things just become clear. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
it's very good.
Yeah, there's times I'll read books like that, and you read a passage or a chapter or a paragraph, and you're like, wow, that's so exactly what I'm going through, or what I observed in myself, or this relationship, or with my family. And again, it just zeroes in, like, wow, other people go through this and they can contextualize it in words. How cool.
Yes, exactly. Or it's like, oh my God, this person is saying exactly how I feel. How do you know? So yeah, I love it. I think it's very important for you to learn how to see things in a different perspective, and those books help you to do that.
Yeah, I do think that's one of the reasons books exist. I think that's very, very true. So where can people find you, online, if they want to support you, follow your stuff, see when a fight's coming up or something?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much more on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel, but I'm still not uploading many videos. I've been uploading a few podcasts that I've been doing, and I'm working with some photographers and some video people now that we're going to be doing some training videos this year. So that's going to be good. But right now, just my Instagram. And yeah, so it's Athena _Martinez with double Z.
Awesome. So again, that's on Instagram. It's Athena _Martinez. 2 Z's at the end, 2 Z's at the end, like she said. Forget I'm talking to her.
It's the accent. Sorry, guys.
No, I love it. It's great. So I'll put that link in the show notes and everything. And we're also going to be wishing you quick healing so you can get back on the mat and start, rolling around and choking out those boys at the gym.
I cannot wait. I'm counting the minutes.
All right, girl. Hey, well, this was a great conversation. You'll have to come back and see how you heal up and then how the fights go.
Yeah, let's have a chat again after the fight.
All right, there we go, Athena. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed listening to that interview, listening to Athena Martinez, where she got her start, where she's at now, that crazy cryo story. But she's healing up and back in the gym, so we wish her all the best. Want to get her back on here after she chokes somebody out in her next fight. We'll have to get her back on. If you want to catch up with her, go over to the Instagram and follow Athena Martinez. That is going to be at Athena _Martinez with 2 Z's at the end. At Athena _Martinez double Z, as she told me. You can follow the podcast at www.ridersandfighters.com. Find all our social media links there. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, any of those podcast apps, leave us a review. Give us 5 stars and say some kind words. Appreciate everybody's support. Couldn't do it without you. Keep on listening. I'll keep on getting good guests like Athena. Everybody be good and be safe. I'll see you guys in about a week. Peace.